have the head on. I think I'm going to go after the oil pan next. Really want to get that oil pan done, because without the oil pan, I can't fill that up with oil. It has continued to leak even after I have drained all of the oil out. And there's a tiny little bead of oil, so it's obviously leaking from the drain plug, even though there shouldn't be any oil left in there. So why it's continuing to leak after I already drained it and it's been sitting for like 6 months, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with me turning the engine over, you know, cranking it to clean the pistons and such. So the first thing that we're gonna do, obviously, is clean up all this grimy oil that is around the entire pan. Now the reason that it's so grimy and oily around there is because that's where the gasket is, and it's leaking all the way around the pan. So we're gonna do something about that. Take off all the bolts, obviously, and if the pan doesn't drop by itself, that's what this nut is for. I can't remember the exact name of it. It's like a wire, a weld nut. This nut right here is welded on at the factory, and it looks like there's a bolt missing. There's really not. The purpose of that is so that you don't take something to pry between this gasket, because if you take something and pry, it might mess up your gasket mating surface. The same concept as any mating surface, you want it to be a true surface. So what this thing is for is you thread in a little nut there and you screw it, and as you tighten that bolt, the pan will lower. Pretty neat. And that way you don't have to worry about messing up your mating surface. That's exactly what it's for. No pry bars, use that. First is to clean it up. So I'm gonna start cleaning. Alright, I'm getting low on battery, and I needed to figure out a way to mount the PlaySport so that I can film while I'm under the car and have the PlaySport pointing up. You know, something like that. So what I came up with was my O2 sensor socket. Let's just say that this is the PlaySport. We'll fit it in like that, and you can kind of angle it. It's not going to be great, you know. Ideally you would want something that's adjustable, but in the meantime I'm hoping that that will do, because I need to get a good angle, and I don't just want to prop it up on something, because it might, you know, let's say I prop it up on something, it might tend to slide off or something like that. So just an idea. Okay, I'm going to try and prop up PlaySport kind of like that, you know, cleaning off as much of this crap as I can with degreaser. Try and get the nuts clean. Who cares about the actual case, but I just did that anyway. These are 12 mil. I got a little extender. There's a lot of bolts around here. And then once you get, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that, there's a bracket in front over here that you also have to get off in order to get to the other bolts on the other side of the pan. There's the oil pan. It goes all the way around. There's nuts that go, or bolts, let's just say, all the way around. And then you come to this bracket, and you also have to get that bracket off. And that bolt is a little bigger. I'm going to guess that's a 14 mil bolt. Every single oil pan bolt off the car, you're supposed to take one of these bolts and screw them into the weld nut, and that will help get the pan off, because right now every single bolt on the oil pan is off, but the oil pan is still stuck onto the, let's just say, the bottom of the block. So you have to force it off, but you do not use pry tools. There is only one weld nut, not two. I thought I saw one on the other side, but there's not. Let's see if I can get some perspective. It's the first nut right there, and that's already threaded in. I'm gonna see if I can film this somehow. Okay, I have no idea if that's going to be in focus or not. This is going to be kind of tricky here. I should really be doing this from the other side. Let's try and go this way. You can kind of see it moving down now. Alright, now bottomed out. There we go. This is your oil pickup tube, also known as your oil strainer. It's got some oil dripping out of there. What is that? There is some kind of piece of metal sticking out of here. Oh, I think that's the end of the dipstick. You're gonna have to clean that surface up, clean this mating surface, clean that mating surface up. That's a bunch of gunk on there. Clean the inside of the paint if you want. Might not be a bad idea. And then put your bead of sealant around there. Wait till it's tacky, slap it up there, bolt it back in. Should be good to go. I'm running out of tape, or let's just say memory now because it's digital. And I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to explain or show that process. So that's how it be. Okay, what I've been doing to clean the oil pan is use the razor blade, but this latex stuff is or this silicone sealant is so thin in some places that it acts like latex, and it just almost impossible to get off within these little divots. So I've been using my aluminum brush, my trusty, tried and true aluminum brush I've used for so many different projects. Works great. Okay, now we have to clean the mating surface for the bottom of the oil pan. This is the lower oil pan, and if you take out those bolts, remove that, then you will get to the upper oil pan. We're not going to be doing that. The strainer looks good. Don't need to think about replacing that or anything. Just need to clean this mating surface. What I've been doing is taking the razor blade, and instead of going this way with it, you go back. That seems to work the best. That seems to work particularly nice. This has never been cleaned before because when I tried to go forward, I'll catch these little burrs. Shave off a tiny little bit of metal. So what you can do in that case is take your sandpaper and just kind of sand off, round off the edge a little bit, and then go back at it with your razor blade, and that will make it a much easier time of it. Forgot to mention that you go at it with the razor blade first, and then you take your aluminum brush, and then you get the rest of the big stuff that you can, and then you go at the burrs with your sandpaper, and then you go at it with the razor blade again. And after you do that, this will be an amazingly smooth surface. Now that our oil pan surfaces are clean, really slick, we are ready to put the oil pan back on. I couldn't help it. Some of these have the sealant, the gasket sealant on the actual bolt, as you can see, and it's got gunk and stuff on there, so you have to clean all of these up first, and then we'll be ready to put the gasket in. Well, I cleaned all the bolts, and I think that only took me like an hour and a half. All of them had the gasket sealant on it, silicone gasket sealant, and it was really hard to come off. I switched between using a wire brush, sanding block, and a rag, and every once in a while I would use this as a little pick tool to get in between threads. Those took a long time, and now the gasket's ready to be made and then put on. Now it says to do the gasket beating inside of the holes, but from the gasket that I cleaned off, it was all over the place. So there's obviously these little divots inside of here, inside of each screw hole that's obviously meant for where the gasket bead is supposed to go. So I'm gonna wing it and just do what I think is going to be necessary to make a good seal. This is my oil pan, and I think this is what it's going to take to seal it to about the same way that it was. About the same amount of gasket that I saw being scraped off. I think that's about right. So you're supposed to let this dry just a little bit. I mean, it's basically tacky right now, but I think we're good there. Okay, I'm completely out of battery, but that's how it looks. The gasket just barely squished out, and even though it was black on the factory, you couldn't even tell. But that's pretty much almost exactly what it looked like, except now it's gray, and before it was black because it was covered with oil. So I'm actually fairly happy with that. I know maybe some of you are going to say I use too much, but I'm getting about that time. Oh, nice effect. I spent all day out here. Started at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. It's now 6:30. And feels like I got nothing done. I mean, I got the head on, got my oil pan replaced. I think the thing that took the most amount of time was cleaning things I didn't expect to be cleaning, like nuts and bolts and crap. No, my engine is not back together. That's just my valve cover put back on there to make me feel better. A little semblance of normalcy. It's just the head, no cam gears, no cams, no HLAs, no keepers, none of that. It's just straight up head how you saw it with the valve cover slapped on it. It's been a long day. This is probably the longest I've ever worked on my car, ever, in a single day. Sun up to sundown with this neat little Kodak PlaySport. I ran out of batteries before I ran out of storage space. I had to go in and recharge it. That's why it's suddenly a lot later. So plenty of storage on the PlaySport. There's still a lot that has to be done, and not a lot of time to do it. I am running out of time. So that's the end of, let's just call it reassembly day 1. Sounds good to me.